We just recently had the Geological Society of Nevada out here for a site tour. Really awesome to have a bunch of geologists, many of which have seen just about everything in Nevada, come out here. This is something that I think not only benefited them, but benefited us greatly. Nevada is a world-class mining jurisdiction with world-class geologists, a lot of which are a part of this association that's been around a long time.
The purpose behind GSN is to learn more about Nevada's resources and deposits, because Nevada is one of the few states in the U.S. whose economy is largely based on minerals. It's an important component for the Nevada economy. And it's important for geologists and mining engineers and others to better understand what's happening in Nevada, who's doing what where, and what sort of knowledge is being gained, so that we can utilize that knowledge to go out, find more deposits, and contribute more to the state's economy. There's been interest in Atlanta with GSN now for the last 2 years. When we started making news releases about some high-grade hits, that's what attracted the attention, because very few projects in Nevada and really in North America are announcing high-grade oxide hits. I mean, this is highly unusual. Atlanta is unique in Nevada as a gold deposit because it's not simply sediment hosted, it's not totally intrusive hosted or volcanic hosted. It's a combination of all three.
There we go, that's 30 grams.
Yeah.
Which makes it a complicated gold system. So this was another thing that folks wanted to come out here and take a look at. They've read our press releases. They can see that Atlanta is not the simple system that it was thought to be for the past 80 years or so. And they wanted to see for themselves, well, what's going on out here? What they could see is a multiple stage mineralizing system where you're getting different generations of gold mineralization and different rock types.
The tour started with us in our core room, being able to look at some of our highest, best grades and some of our best examples of mineralized host rock and get that discussion going and get everyone thinking about the driving mechanisms behind the deposit and what's going on and how can you apply that regionally.
So this by Brescia 2 is going to have the igneous components. So this by Brescia 1 is going to be dolomite.
Fingering or diking or how it was kind of.
And to be fair to the structure is pretty complex. We've got a lot of blocks.
73, yeah, that's an anomalous antimony.
We took them through the basic rock types, alteration types, mineralization types, so they had some sort of an idea for how the rocks related to the mineralization. How is the project different from the way it was 30, 40 years ago when many of us first looked at the property? And what changed your mind about the property? That's why the interest in coming out here and looking at a small but well-known mine that goes way back to the 1800s and saying, well, how has things changed? Why did it change? And why did you do something different? What breathed new life into it? That's the thing that's uppermost in their mind. A lot of the questions revolved around how certain rocks and alteration types that you see in the boxes relate to the mineralization. Now we have the assays on each of the samples so they could see it, but they also saw there were quite a few differences in here in terms of what carried gold and what doesn't carry gold.
Second stop was in the Atlanta pit.
Like kind of like that right now, and then there's another bit up here, right? Yeah.
And you're getting bedding, decalcification along bedding.
Yeah, there's a lot of silicification. You can see these fuzzy halos.
Probably get a little bit of gold in this, but this isn't like the primary target. When you get into the primary target zone, you just get a lot more oxidation on it.
Definitely really excited to be here. It's actually my first GSN trip, so I'm pretty thrilled. So this is the honey yellow barite. Usually this means it's associated with gold. Our white barite will not have as much gold with it.
We took them down the ramp to the southern edge of the Atlanta pit so that they could see the exposure of the main Atlanta fault zone.
You got a ladder?
Yeah. Don't you carry one in your pocket? You're like Mary Poppins, you know? Just keep, pull it out.
Oh no, it's like silicified, very hard.
Now we're on the Atlanta Caldera margin. This is our basement rock on the east side of the Atlanta pit. Our Ely Springs dolomite, cutting through some of the more karsted areas of our dolomite. We have a felsic dike, just comes as a component to our tough dike breccias.
There was enough interest there that most of them went all the way to the bottom of the pit.
From there, we ended up at the south pit, which is where one of our primary east-west structures are that down drops the quartzite ridge into the pit. From there, we have some pretty high-grade samples.
That's the area around HG41, which is a new discovery that we made last year. Gold under the quartzite cap, which is highly unusual type of gold occurrence.
We have a steep angle cutting up through the area and a conical explosion as we're figuring out through our leapfrog modeling. But again, rhyodicitic intrusives hosting the gold here on an east-west structure, cutting off the Atlanta pit and separating the quartzite ridge from the lower resource.
After that, we were able to take them over to the Silver Park targets, both the east and west, and kind of explain the history of Silver Park and why we're drilling around that area.
The Ryan Springs Caldera post-mineral?
Yes.
Okay, but the Atlanta Caldera is sin or pre-mineral?
Correct. We have soil grids through this whole area, strongly anomalous, that go all the way to the toe of these landslides. So we're assuming there's potential continuation of these anomalies.
We're trying to find a satellite for Atlanta. We are seeing some potential for gold. We have seen some hot holes in the Silver Park area, which is a ways away from the historic pit.
They could get into the pit there and look at contacts, look at mineralogies. There's some good specimen material for them to collect.
Oh, these like this. Oh, I see.
We moved on to South Atlanta and checked out some of the more skarnoid rocks that we've recently been looking at.
If you take a look at the rocks closely back over here, you'll see the endoskarn developed in the marbleized mahogany limestone. There's an endoskarn contact right in there with the coarse-grained monzonite. It runs about 70-80 ppb, but it's got high moly. You're looking at moly values in there up to about 600 pp of moly.
A very different type of gold mineralization. It's related to a skarn. It's called a skarn assemblage, which is a higher temperature than the main deposit. And the reason for taking them there is to point out that the gold system at Atlanta is not just one note. There are other elements in here that are pointing to a much longer period of time of evolution of the caldera-related mineralization.
Atlanta South is important because it's an intersection of two calderas, the Atlanta caldera and the Ryan Springs caldera. So this is evidence of deep-seated structures. And with deep-seated structures, when you're looking for gold, they're extremely important because deep-seated structures can mean multiple phases of magmatism, resurgent magmatism, and multi-phase magmatism. That's a great target for gold exploration.
And the more episodes you have in the same area where they're stacked on top of each other, like they are here, the better your chances of finding a much larger deposit. Once they saw that, some of the old timers look and said, oh God, this looks like the such and such or the such and such. And then they say, yeah, okay, there's something else going on here. You guys need to do some more drilling out here in the flats where you can't see anything.
There's been no modern drilling out there except for the drilling that Kinross did further back. No one bothered to step behind me or step on trend of the structure to test it under the covered area. So that's part of our phase 4 program.
And we're looking at a higher temperature, deeper type of mineralization. Now we start to see elements of not just the Carlin type systems, but also the skarn systems that are frequently encountered in the Battle Mountain and the Carlin Trends. And many deposits in Nevada are associated spatially with low temperature skarns. This is quite common. I'm pleased to see the younger people asking questions. That's important.
Is this that endoskarn dacite stuff you're talking about that's down the hill a ways?
Looks like it.
Yeah, okay.
Sure does.
Yeah, like calcite and stuff like that. There's barite right
curved,
there.
it's got curved.
It's our responsibility as professional geologists to bring along the younger crowd. That's part of our ethical code, is that we have to replace ourselves somehow. These trips are far more informative for the younger geos and the students that are looking at trying to, generate a career in geology somewhere. It gives them a very good idea of what they could be doing as they get out of school and move into the industry.
It's exciting. You saw a lot of enthusiasm as people were looking at some of our highest grade material.
We've been compiling our geophysical data and developing our better understanding of the subsurface. And for us to be able to explain that to the Geological Society of Nevada was a great opportunity. There was definitely some high interest from people who work in similar settings.
This is why you saw a pretty good crowd show up, and they got out, they stuck their noses in the rock. I think they were surprised to see that a small junior company like Nevada King was so tenacious with the amount of time and money that was invested in Atlanta to try to get it, advance it along, and keep advancing it. Our exploration regional exploration is just getting started. So this summer, we still have an awful lot of drilling to do out here. Still more sampling, more mapping to do. And the more we do out here, the more we find, and the bigger the project gets, just like way at the south end around that skarn zone. That opens up a whole new realm to the south and to the southwest of the main deposit area.
You have so many geologists that have been around Nevada and seen so many types of deposits and so many things. To be able to bring that kind of knowledge in and get input and have a kind of a dialogue started about our deposit, it can only help and really strengthen the team at Nevada King.